The cup smashed against the sidewalk before I had time to think. White ceramic shattering into a constellation at my feet. Coffee splattering my shoes like dark, sudden bruises. I had been following him for 2 nights, soft-shod behind the tail lights, convincing myself I was doing nothing more treacherous than curiosity. The cup explained everything at once. The way his shoulders folded when he breathed, the furtive laugh muffled at the doorway, the smell hers under his jacket. My husband, Daniel, came to my mother's house twice a week now. He called it helping out. He called it dropping off groceries. He called it visiting. I had folded every oddity into a paper boat of reason. Late work, stress, my new job that kept me late, my own tiredness that named everything else as paranoia. Tonight I wanted proof, not excuses. The porch light pooled like honey on the steps. I watched him through the slats of the fence, his hand on the faded wood of the gate, his head bent in a way that suggested confession. And then she opened the door. My mother was a small woman, all pale knuckles and loud perfumes, the kind of presence that could fill a room with other people's history. Daniel stepped into her safety as if he belonged there. He pressed his forehead to her temple and smiled in a way I recognized only from the wedding photos, the smile I had thought reserved for me. My first reaction was a flat, mechanical distance. Catalog every grain of betrayal like evidence. The second was sudden loud hurt sharp enough to taste metal. I climbed the fence because my legs remembered older transgressions, how once I'd climbed to the roof to escape a fight, how my father used to say that pride is a broken ladder. I didn't think. I moved like a thing possessed by memory and the smell of her perfume, tangerine and musk, seeping through the screen door. They were in the kitchen. She sat at the table, knitting needles clicking the steady heartbeat of domesticity, and he stood too close, fingers tracing the outline of the salt shaker as if it were a map. When the screen door sighed, both of them looked up, and something like a film snapped. "Sarah?" my mother said, the name like a question and a warning. I didn't demand an explanation. I could have shouted, asked how long, counted the nights, forced the details out of them. Instead, I felt the air inside me compress into small rational things. Where is the ring? When was the last time we touched like this? How many nights had I slept while they stole a private gravity? Why are you here? I asked. The question was smaller than I meant it to be. Daniel's face went blank in an honest, idiotic way. He reached for me, that reflexive cavalry of apologies. I can explain. My mother's needles paused. Her eyes, those gray stubborn coins, softened so fast it made me dizzy. So you followed him, she said to me, not unkind, as if she had expected the spy in the night. It was a kindness like a knife. You knew. I whispered. My heart beat against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knew, she said. Not in the way you mean. I missed things. I was lonely. Her fingers found his hand on the table and squeezed. Sarah, you left. You left years ago and we learned to fix our silence in small ways. This isn't what you think. The soft defensiveness in her tone grated. I looked at Daniel. For the first time in our years together, he seemed small. He looked like someone caught fumbling with a secret he could no longer hold. It started when you were gone for the weekend, he said, the voice trying to be level and failing. You remember? The blackout. Your dad's funeral. You think that lets you cross me? My voice wasn't loud. It was a blade sliding out of its sheath. You think grief is a permission slip? Guilt flashed across his features, raw and animal. I didn't intend, he began. You didn't intend, I repeated, tasting the thinness of that word. In the silence that followed, my thoughts braided into something colder and more ferocious. Every time he came home with a new cologne, I told myself I liked it. Every time he took a walk after a late call, I hid in the bed and pretended not to notice. My mother's apology arrived like a stray coin on the table. Small, unavoidable. I'm sorry, sweetheart, she said. I loved him like someone who needed to be loved. I didn't think. You didn't think of me, I said, and the sentence felt like the simplest truth. I thought of the years I had spent carving space for both of them in my life, of the silent meetings where they plotted around me like I was background furniture. I had wanted to believe in the decency between people I loved. Denial is a generous lover. Daniel's eyes found the blue bowl where the cup had broken, my cup, the chipped one with a hairline crack I'd been meaning to toss. He saw the mess, and something like anguish finally broke his brittle composure. I never wanted to hurt you, he said. I thought I was helping. With her. With us. Helping. I tasted the word until it turned sour. By lying to me? My mother stood then, an old woman trying to be small. We were going to tell you. We planned to. Her voice cracked like an old dam. Planned to. Laughter, raw and useless, escaped me. You planned to tell me after you had already rewritten our life. There was a long cinematic beat where the house seemed too loud. The refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, the distant sound of a car passing. My chest filled with memory. Wedding vows, the soft night he once held me and said my name like a prayer. Those memories were not nullified by betrayal, but they were repainted in colors I could not reconcile. I don't know what I want, Daniel whispered, and for the first time I saw the map of his choices unfold. Fear on one side, desire on the other, and me curled in between like a city caught in a border dispute. I love you. I love her. You can't love us both and expect us to survive, I said. The truth landed like a verdict. I left before they could craft a plan, before apologies turned into promises. I walked through the shattered porch light, through the smear of ceramic that looked suddenly like a universe I could not step into. My hands were empty except for the small weight of a crumpled photograph I took from my wallet without thinking. The three of us at the lake, smiling before weight settled on our shoulders. I kept it in my fist like contraband. At the car, I sat and watched their silhouettes through the kitchen window. Two figures leaning toward each other in a way that had once meant safety. The wind lifted leaves along the street. The night smelled of rain and secrets. Betrayal, I realized, is not merely what someone does to you. It is what they choose when you are not the story they want to finish. When I turned the key in the ignition, my hands were steady for the first time since I'd seen them. I had no plan. Only the clear, cold knowledge that something had died whose funeral I would not plan. Love, denial, anger. Each would come later in a messy litany. For now, I drove away with the photograph clutched in my palm. A small private proof that once there was a different script. Behind me, light spilled from the kitchen window, and for the first time in a long time, my chest felt like a room I had to rebuild from its own ashes.